This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are a time of traditions. Some people have many in their families, while some others have none or are just beginning their own. Now is the time to reflect on what they mean to you or to rewrite those traditions and make your own. I kick off my holiday season by watching Almost Christmas almost every day. I love that movie. Incorporating therapy into your new or existing traditions can help ensure you take time for yourself during what can be a very joyful, but sometimes a hectic and lonely time of year. If you're feeling a little lonely this time of year, totally normal. A lot of people feel the same way. Consider trying BetterHelp online therapy in December as a way to close the year with clarity instead of chaos. BetterHelp's quality therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the US. I love many things about BetterHelp, but one of them, BetterHelp does the initial matching work with your therapist for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. It's very simple. You fill out a short questionnaire that helps identify your needs and preferences. And BetterHelp will connect you with the right therapist. But if you are unhappy with your match for any reason, you can switch to a different therapist at any time. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. I love how BetterHelp makes it so easy to get professional help. This December, start a new tradition by taking care of you. Our listeners get 10% off at betterhelp.com/ratchet. That's better, HELP.com/ratchet. If you're a last minute shopper like me, you know this feeling. The shelves are empty and ideas are running low. Aura Frames is the solution with a gift that feels personal. Aura Frames offers the world's smartest digital picture frame. It's an easy and beautiful solution to instantly frame photos from your phone. And it's very, very simple. You can upload unlimited photos and video. All you do is download the Aura app and connect to Wi-Fi. And you can preload the photos before it ships. And you can add photos anytime, anywhere. I need to get this for my mom for when I travel so she can get an update of my photos. I think this is a good gift. Share photos and videos effortlessly straight from your phone all year long. And what I love, Aura Frames comes with a gift box included. Every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box with no additional price tag. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code RATCHET at checkout. That's AURA, frames.com, promo code RATCHET. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. What do you want? Not family, not friends, not society at large, you. What do you want and how do you want it? Without the noise of external opinions, you may have the space to find out. On the dating app field, curiosity leads the way towards intimacy with others and yourself. If life on field interests you, here's a closer look at exactly what happens there. Now, I love field because it doesn't gatekeep connection. In an age where dating apps create hurdles to finding your people, field is built differently. My favorite part, there's no fast swipe culture. Sometimes attraction takes time. Here, you don't have to make a split decision in order to see another person. Skip profiles, go back, and take the time you need to decide if you really like someone. Are you ready to give Field a try? That's FEELD. Download Field on the App Store or Google Play. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable, not live, but still from South Africa. Yes, still, I'm still over here. I'm going to be here almost till the end of December. I am in the middle of a See Some World trip. I'm hosting about 20 women for 10 days as we gallivant around Cape Town and a little bit beyond. We've gone out to the winelands at least twice. As of right now, most of my ladies and the one gent, he's here with his wife, they have gone to either the spa and or to see penguins and possibly to get their lashes done. So they're having a very good free day. I'm a little sad that the trip is coming to an end. I really enjoyed having the ladies here. We've had a really good time, great energy from the group. Unfortunately, what our conversation is today is, you would think it's one of my faves. The way that I talk about this subject so often, hazard of the job. I'm really kind of over this man at this point. But Diddy, back up. But 50 Cent has a new documentary, a 4-part series on Netflix about Diddy. Sean Combs, The Reckoning. It was released yesterday, December 2nd. I don't have a lot of free time. As I've just explained, I am in the middle of hosting a trip. However, for obvious reasons, the topic was trending on all the social platforms. I was like, let me make it my business, because it literally is, given the profession, to watch this documentary in full and then report back on my thoughts. And I do have many, 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 many. I will start by noting I have covered every major story, event, series, documentary, update, everything Diddy wise since Cassie's lawsuit dropped, which I think was November 2023. I have read 90% of the big lawsuits. There are over 100 of them were filed. But the big ones, say like the one with Dawn, the one with Little Rod, the producer, the underage girl who had pictures from being in Diddy's studio when she was 16. She accused Diddy and the president of Bad Boy of sexually assaulting her. There was a woman whose, I think, boyfriend worked for Bad Boy. She said Diddy assaulted her. There was a woman who was on a boat. She said one of Diddy's kids assaulted her. Obviously, the Cassie lawsuit. I've read so many lawsuits. I covered the trial literally every single day. I rearranged my day when the verdict was read. I was supposed to be driving back from Jersey. It was the first time I stayed in Penny. But I tell you all that to say, even as someone who grew up on Diddy, had 50 million friends that work for Bad Boy or Ciroc or the water. I can't even remember the name of the water. Then there was like the marketing agency, Blue Flame. Is that what it's called? Lived through I don't know, the peak of the Diddy era. I think the peak of the Diddy era was when I was still in college, but lived through like at least the partying Diddy era. All through my 20s in New York, there were still somehow things in this documentary that I was like, wait, what? Not in terms of realizing anything in particular about Diddy. Like, I hit the nadir of thinking the worst of him a long time ago. And yet somehow watching this documentary, I was still like, this man, much like our current president, really just has no bottom. I want to tell you that to put into context the way that I'm going to talk about this documentary, because I think just going on and on and on about how awful Diddy is something that we've established far and long ago. I'm not going to belabor that point because we have belabored it so many times before this podcast episode. But I do want to talk about a couple things that did come up for me while watching. Let's start with Kirk. Kirk was one of the original founders of Bad Boy. When Diddy created Bad Boy as an actual business, he gave his mother 75% of the shares and he put the other 25% in Kirk's name. And the reason he did that is because the incident at City College, the celebrity basketball game that ended in a stampede, 9 people were killed. Many of them filed lawsuits against Diddy, and he couldn't put anything in his name should he be held liable in a lawsuit. So he put 75% in his mom's name, and he puts 25% in Kirk's name. And what is really important about Kirk, at least in this moment, Kirk has a lot of crazy stories about Diddy even before he agrees to run Bad Boy with him and take on this 25% in this company. He tells a story about, as a result of the City College incident, he says Diddy and his mom, I don't know if it was a hotel or a more permanent living situation, but the important part is he talks about Diddy physically assaulting his own mother, Janice Combs, like Mama Combs, the same mother. But he talks about Diddy physically assaulting his mother and calling her a bitch. That's something I'd never heard before. Put a pin in that. He talks about Diddy in City College and not properly planning the event, not spending enough money on security for the event, and just overall, like, just it being a hot ass mess. Which, by the way, until I was watching this documentary, I didn't know Dougie Fresh had been involved. Like, he was like the MC of the event. I knew Heavy D was involved. I didn't know Dougie Fresh had anything to do with it. And I was like, I've heard about this story 50 million times. I've never heard Dougie Fresh's name in it. However, there's video and Dougie Fresh, who actually somehow looks better, younger, and fresher, like, I don't know, 30, over 30 years later than he did back then. Like, he looked like he had a hard life back then, and now he looks very, like, pure and refreshed and, like, vegan or something. He looks beautiful. I digress. Kirk also tells this story about Diddy beating the shit out of Misa outside of, I think it was the Uptown offices. Had heard rumors of abuse towards Misa, had never, at least as I'm remembering in this moment, confirmation of it. This is the point that I want to make with this. Just how, like, when you hear about sociopaths, serial killers, men who do like excessive violence as adults, people will go back and be like, well, what were the signs that he would do something so crazy? How do we know he would become a serial killer? How do we know that he would become a mass shooter? How do we know that he would become, I don't know, he would blow up buildings or something like that? And one of the tells that has become really popular is, well, you know, they used to like abuse animals when they were a kid. Like, they did something to a bird. They did something to the family dog or a neighbor's dog. One of the tells that a man is really, really grimy is the way he treats women. Like, there's a baseline misogyny that runs through not even just American culture, but like globally. But there are also men who are just especially heinous towards women. The Morehouse student we saw on video who was choking the girl, the Clark student, and telling her he was going to kill her. That kind of like excessive violence towards women, women recognize it as problematic because we are the target. So many men just sort of skip over that and pretend it's not some sort of massive character flaw. They're like, oh, well, you know, he got anger issues with women. And they think the anger and the unhinged behavior and the uncontrolled violence and the entitlement to act like that with somebody else, they think it's just directed towards women, so it won't ever happen to them. But it's like with Kirk, and in no way am I blaming him. I'm just assessing the situation. It's like you saw him beat on a woman. You saw him beat on his own mother. You saw him do this city college event in which 9 people were left dead and several other people, I don't know the exact number, were injured. And you still decided, yeah, this is somebody I want to go into business with. And then over the course of the business, you see him fuck over people one after the other, after the other, after the other. I think it's Kirk is the one in the documentary that points out Diddy would always come up with ways to not pay his artists and, in fact, tell them that they were in the hole. Kirk seems somehow shocked when Diddy walks into his office one day with a baseball bat and demands that Kirk sign over his 25% ownership of Bad Boy to Diddy for nothing in return. Diddy said he needed it for something, whatever. He says he'll give it back to him on the back end, which you'd have to be an idiot to believe. But also, he's coming in there with a baseball bat and physically threatening you. And you go along with it. Huh? And not only does he go along with it, he estimates that he lost about 25 million. He continues on working for Bad Boy after that happened. And he was like, well, because I built this company from the ground up into this massive company. Like, it's not just profitable, but it's got this huge cultural impact. Like, Bad Boy is everywhere. Like, our biggest dreams of what this could be are actually realized. And he said, I didn't want to walk away from it. The man just physically threatened you with a baseball bat, stole $25 million from you, and you keep showing up for work. And he keeps showing up for work literally until he's fired by Diddy. And the reason he gets fired is because Biggie had renegotiated his contract with Bad Boy. And they gave him very favorable terms because he was their big artist and he had a really big double album coming down the pipeline. After Biggie's killed, Diddy asked Kirk to go into the contract that Biggie signed and change the terms because Biggie's estate has never seen the contract, to change the terms so that it's more favorable to Bad Boy, i.e. so they wouldn't have to pay the same amount of money to the estates so they could keep more of Biggie's money. Kirk refuses because he was like, this is where I draw the line. And I was like, you didn't draw the line as seeing him beat on a woman outside of his workplace. Not even like, oh, it was behind closed doors and I heard of it, but I didn't see it. So there's plausible deniability. Like, no, you saw him do it. That wasn't your breaking point. When he hit his own mama, allegedly, and called her a bitch, allegedly, that wasn't your breaking point. When he came to you with a bat threatening you and forced you to give up 25% of the company and cut you out of $25 million, that wasn't your breaking point. It wasn't the breaking point when he was fleecing all of his artists when he wasn't paying everybody. That wasn't the breaking point. When he asked you to change Biggie's contract, you refused, but you didn't quit. You never had a breaking point. At the end of the documentary, he says, there's so much that happened at Bad Boy, like stuff I don't even talk about. And the person interviewing him asked for clarity. And they said, well, what do you mean? Like, he was like, Diddy was emotionally abusive. He was financially abusive, but he's abusive in other ways too. And they're like, well, clarify for the group. Exactly what are you referring to? And he says that Diddy also sexually abused him. And he goes on to say, he essayed me, sexual assault. He doesn't describe exactly what happened, but he was like, these are things that happened while I was around him. I want to acknowledge that he is a victim or a survivor. I want to point out his scenario very much as what's the word? Oh, I can't think of the word. But like somebody else has gone through something terrible and then learned something from their story. He saw all these early warning signs that this man was a terror and kept going on with him because he thought it wouldn't happen to him. And then it did. The worst of things happened to him. And then all these other people that dealt with him that have these horrible stories, they all talk about, well, yeah, I saw stuff with Cassie and I saw this and I saw that. But they thought it was just like, well, oh, he's over there doing that to them. He'll never do it to me. People who are like that, people who shit on other people continuously, people are who they are. The person you hear about who tried to hit their own mother, there is no bottom. That type of person is just a horrible fucking person. If you hear or see them do that shit to other people, please understand that they will eventually do it to you. And especially if there's violence against women, I think because there's so much misogyny in the world and it's so much a part of masculinity that men see other men being terrible towards women. I mean, just truly fucking terrible. And they think that that's just that's just how he is with women, but he's cool with everybody else. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are a time of traditions. Some people have many in their families, while some others have none or are just beginning their own. Now is the time to reflect on what they mean to you or to rewrite those traditions and make your own. I kick off my holiday season by watching Almost Christmas almost every day. I love that movie. Incorporating therapy into your new or existing traditions can help ensure you take time for yourself during what can be a very joyful, but sometimes a hectic and lonely time of year. If you're feeling a little lonely this time of year, totally normal. A lot of people feel the same way. Consider trying BetterHelp online therapy in December as a way to close the year with clarity instead of chaos. BetterHelp's quality therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the U.S. I love many things about BetterHelp, but one of them, BetterHelp does the initial matching work with your therapist for you, so you can focus on your therapy goals. It's very simple. You fill out a short questionnaire that helps identify your needs and preferences. And BetterHelp will connect you with the right therapist. But if you are unhappy with your match for any reason, you can switch to a different therapist at any time. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. I love how BetterHelp makes it so easy to get professional help. This December, start a new tradition by taking care of you. Our listeners get 10% off at betterhelp.com/ratchet. That's better, HELP.com/ratchet. If you're a last minute shopper like me, you know this feeling. The shelves are empty and ideas are running low. Aura Frames is the solution with a gift that feels personal. Aura Frames offers the world's smartest digital picture frame. It's an easy and beautiful solution to instantly frame photos from your phone. And it's very, very simple. You can upload unlimited photos and video. All you do is download the Aura app and connect to Wi Fi. And you can preload the photos before it ships. And you can add photos anytime, anywhere. I need to get this for my mom for when I travel so she can get an update of my photos. I think this is a good gift. Share photos and videos effortlessly, straight from your phone all year long. And what I love, Aura Frames comes with a gift box included. Every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box with no additional price tag. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code RATCHET at checkout. That's AURA, frames.com, promo code RATCHET. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Some other thoughts. Eric Sermon, like EPMD Eric Sermon, popped up in the documentary, and I was like, huh. I don't ever remember, in like all the years of talking about Diddy and everything to do with Diddy, I don't ever remember Eric Sermon's name coming up. And yet, here he is. He said Diddy swung on him at one point, and then he was like, okay, like, let's take it outside. And then it jumps to Diddy trying to like play the Biggie album for him. Why were you still speaking to somebody who tried to swing on you? I know men and women handle conflict much differently, but like the level of disrespect to like swing on somebody and then you still fuck with them? Why? At this point, Diddy's not even like super popular. He's not like global superstar Diddy. He might have been Diddy that threw good parties Diddy, which one of the women in the documentary, I think her name is Joy, she tells this story about, I don't remember her affiliation with Diddy, but it was something professional. She wasn't dating him. She wasn't like a groupie type or anything, but they were shooting a video for one of the acts that he was doing A&R for, I think at Uptown. He said the person that was supposed to be doing the video couldn't make it for whatever reason, and they needed a stand-in. She's a real pretty girl. And so she went and shot the video clear. I think she had consensual sex with Diddy, and he secretly recorded her. And then he started playing it as sort of like a parlor trick, if you will, at like various events. Kind of like Alpo from what's the movie? People Get Shot Every Day, B. And Wood Harris and Mekhi Phifer. I think actually Cameron played Alpo in the movie. Apparently Alpo, like the real life drug dealer, would videotape himself having sex with women and go around showing it to people on video. So Diddy admired Alpo and then picked up a habit of doing this. I shouldn't say picked up the habit. Also decided to sexually harass, terrorize a woman. I don't remember the number of people that she said came back to her, but it was too many for it to be a lie. And she said that she would tell them, like, can you help me? Can you do something? Can you confront him? Can you tell him to stop showing this shit? Like, WTF. And she said the guys would tell her, damn, like, I can't really get involved because then I wouldn't get invited to Diddy's parties. That's what I mean about the baseline misogyny. Like, you'll throw a woman that you know in real life, not some random girl online, somebody whose number is in your phone, somebody how you know how to get in contact with because, like, you know them. And you throw them under the bus. You refuse to protect them. You refuse to speak up to them because, ooh, he throw good parties and I wouldn't be able to get in. I can't do it. Sorry. So people be like, oh, he's so rich, he's so powerful, and that's why people didn't speak up. No, people just didn't give a fuck. That's why they didn't speak up. Long before he was global Diddy, long before he was powerful Diddy, people were still, what the kids say now, glazing him. He was a local nigga with some clout who threw good parties. The woman eventually goes to Diddy on her own and confronts him, and she said Diddy denied it, act like she was crazy, like it never happened. A tidbit that I didn't know, Biggie's Big Papa is a direct response to I Get Around. Insiders say that Diddy was like largely obsessed with Tupac and he hated that Biggie and Tupac were really good friends. He wanted to be Biggie's best friend, or also he wanted Tupac to like him and he wanted Tupac to work with him. And Tupac was like, I don't fuck with you. I'm just here for Big. Like, you could go. Tupac's I Get Around was like this major, major, major song, which I lived it. I remember. But they said that Diddy studied the I Get Around video. Tupac is at a pool party and it's just like a very like West Coast LA vibes kind of video. And they said the Big Papa video when he's it's a Brooklyn house party in a brownstone and just being sexy and being very, very New York was a direct response to essentially Tupac's visuals. I'm scrolling through, I took notes. Craig Mack's ex-wife is here. She says Craig had no money. She said Craig had to go to Diddy. I don't remember what the circumstance was, but Craig had to go to Diddy to ask for money. And she said Diddy pulled out like this wad of money. It sounded like it was several $1,000s. And she said he peeled off $100 bill and that's all he would give Craig. Somewhere later in the documentary, maybe it was Kirk who says it, but they said Diddy never wanted people to have money because then they would, start feeling themselves. Their bravado would be a little different. They would carry themselves different. Like if they could, sustain themselves, they wouldn't be as reliant on him. So he was like, he made a point to keep people broke. And I also have a note here that Uptown was run the same way. So Diddy learned this shit from Andre Harrell. So I was like, wait, did like Jodeci, Heavy D, like they didn't have money either? Oh, circling back to Kirk, he talks about Biggie's death. He said Diddy ushered Big to his death. Tupac had already been killed. And Tupac, the first time he was shot, had accused Diddy of having something to do with it, which Diddy adamantly denied. And then when Tupac is finally killed, West Coast music scene, West Coast gang scene, whoever believed that Diddy had something to do with it. And so Kirk says Bad Boy had received multiple threats, warnings, however you want to interpret it, not to be out on the West Coast because they weren't welcome there. It was award season. Diddy insisted they needed to be in LA for award season. So he's like, they went out there, they did all the media tours, they were showing up at all the events. Kirk said Big did not want to be out there. Kirk said he had been told by Diddy to put together a full European tour for Biggie. That was going to be the first time a bad boy artist had gone to Europe to promote their album. But he was like, we had so much riding on this Life After Death album. He was like, I had done everything I was supposed to do to make this big for Biggie. He's like, Biggie didn't want to be in LA. He wanted to go on the European tour. He says the morning after he was killed, he was supposed to be on a plane to Europe to start his European press tour, but he's murdered. This always gets me. Biggie was 24 when he was murdered? I was a freshman in college. I remember it was second semester. Award season in LA is usually around February, March. That tracks. So I was still 17. 24 seemed old to me. Not like old, 30, but it seemed old like you're a real adult. Like you're out of high school, you're out of college, you've been out in the real world, like you have a real job. Like I thought 25 was the age where, I don't know, you own a house and a good car, you're married, like you're a full-fledged adult. I thought 25 was, I don't know, kind of what 40, 45 is for me, but okay. Now it's like an actual grown-ass person, like a middle-aged person, hearing how young Biggie and Tupac were. I'm like, they were babies. Like they never really got to live. Like I understand as artists, they were able to put out significant bodies of work and music that has stood the test of time. Music that has had, particularly Tupac, had a global impact. I haven't been in any country of the world, no matter how far flung, where I haven't seen a poster, including South Africa, a t-shirt, street art of Tupac in some form. I mean, countries that don't even speak English, Morocco, Brazil, Argentina, Istanbul, they never really got to become men. Like at 24, 25, you don't know shit. You think you do. You don't. Oh, I have this note here. So Big wanted to leave and go on the European tour. He didn't want to be in LA. He was uncomfortable being out there. Diddy insisted they had to be out there because Big has this new album coming out. He said, but they're in LA. Big is scheduled to leave. And then Diddy cancels the European press tour because he wants to throw a party. He wants to throw a bad boy party in LA. And leaving that party is when Biggie gets shot. Literally, the quote is, he ushered Biggie to his death. You did that. And then you lied about being a man's bestie. And then, even worse, according to Kirk, he said Diddy's running around telling everybody he's going to pay for Biggie's funeral. Then he realizes the cost of Biggie's funeral. And he was like, oh, We're just going to bill it to his account. So as a recuperable expense, you're taking money from his children to avoid paying for a funeral you told everyone you were going to pay for, but didn't. That's a grimy nigga. Okay, the beginning of season 3, they start playing this song called Nature Boy by Nat King Cole. I had to look it up, but it's this really like haunting song about this very strange boy, in which he's in on it because there's also video of like him playing it for casting. He identified himself as a very strange boy, and I was like, and nobody thought that in and of itself was strange. Him listening to that strange ass song and then identifying himself as it. They talk a little bit about his interest in Kim. They know that Kim came from a good home. And I wrote that down because I think there's an idea that like women from quote and unquote good homes are more deserving of good behavior from men than women who come from bad homes. You, as the child of the home, can't determine whether it's good or bad. Like you're born into it and you make the most of it. Like God willing it is good. But even if you come from a bad home, like say Capricorn, she tells the story about how her mom was on cocaine. She doesn't call her a drug addict, so I won't either. But she said her mom used cocaine like 5 days a week. Most people would call that a bad home. Capricorn acknowledges it wasn't the best of circumstances, but Capricorn from her bad home and Kim from her good home still deserve the same amount of respect and decent behavior, no matter the type of home they come from. They run through a lot of incidents in Diddy's life back to back to back, which if you lived it and you actually sat down and thought about it on some like the North remembers, you know that there's been like 50 million incidents of Diddy doing crazy shit over the years. And this documentary, like it goes into detail about a lot of them, but there's also still like a lot left out. So like he threw Diddy didn't like the way Justin's coach spoke to him, and he threw something at the coach, and not like a towel, he threw a kettlebell. He was arrested for it, allegedly throwing a kettlebell at a UCLA assistant coach. The altercation occurred at the university's athletic facility after Combs confronted the coach about yelling at his son, Justin Combs, who was a player on the team. He was initially charged with assault with a deadly weapon, but was later released on bail, and the felony charges were rejected by the district attorney. And there's so much stuff over the years. Like he's been accused over and over and over and over and over of these outbursts of violence that have actually led to like, like actual like in the court system. And somehow he keeps getting off. It's very Trumpy in that way. They breeze over Mace and Bad Boy. I want to say they spent all of like 2 minutes on Mace. They mention him just along with everyone else who's also left Bad Boy. I would love to hear Mace's story. I've said that over and over and over again because Mace left at the height of his career and then also run to Atlanta and become a minister. It's not lost on me that several people, Mace being one of them, who worked for Bad Boy, went to like extreme religiosity. Like it's one thing to be like, I found Jesus and, now I'm a Christian. It's a whole nother thing to be like, I'm going to go be a minister. Like Craig Mack was, people said he was in a cult. Shine chose Judaism. Something happened to them people, but I really want to know what happened to Mace. He doesn't talk about it. He'll take little jabs at Diddy every now and again, but to my knowledge, he's never come out and said, like, this is what happened. So Mace leaves Bad Boy. That was the last big artist other than Diddy because he made himself the biggest artist on his own label. They note that Diddy then flips to reality. He has Making the Band. He has Danity Kane. He has Day 26. They have Babs in the documentary. She says that Diddy decided to sign her, which she was super, super excited about. They gave her this gigantic stack of papers, her contract, and they said she had 24 hours to sign it. So go talk to her lawyer. So she got it to a lawyer. The lawyer looked at it and was like, basically, you're signing away everything. They're promising you fame, but no fortune. And Babs was like, and I just signed it because like, Bad Boy was like the biggest label. So I just signed it. Aubrey is here. This was really, really, really hard. Aubrey talks about how she gave Diddy pop credibility. She was the star of the group. She was becoming super famous. And She talks about how Diddy sexually harassed her. He would send her pictures of his dick. He would tell her that he's about to go watch porn and masturbate, and he invited her to come fuck him. He would write emails to her with pictures of his dick attached and then signed off the email, "God is the greatest." It's a sick mofo. She also points out here, she's like, this isn't just like some random guy. Like, I might have been dating him or something like that. She was like, this was my boss. It's like in any other industry, if your boss sent you something like this, he would be immediately fired and you would be well compensated for the crazy shit that he did. That never happened. She said she was fired for two reasons. One, because she refused to fuck, but also because she was becoming too powerful by becoming famous. She also tells this story in this documentary. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. She says she got a call from her lawyers. There was another lawsuit that a woman filed, and she was talking about like the crazy shit that happened with Diddy. She was at a party. I think it was at his house. And she was looking for the bathroom. She said she opened the door to the wrong room and she saw Diddy and another man having sex with Aubrey. And she says Diddy was having vaginal sex with her. The other man had his penis in Aubrey's mouth. And she said Aubrey was completely out of it, not passed out, but she was like, you could see that she was inebriated in some form. Aubrey is reading the description from the lawsuit, and it's clear that she has no recollection of what this woman describes. And she says, I reached out to the woman and I said, hey, I saw what was in your lawsuit. And she said, are you sure it was me? Because I don't remember any of this. And she said, I'm 100% positive that it was you. I know what I saw. I know what you look like. I know it was Diddy. I don't know who the other guy was, but like, I remember what he looks like. It 110% was you. And so Aubrey was like, in my life, like I've never been a big drinker, never been a drugs person. If what she's saying is true, then I was drugged. And she was like, I would love to deny that this happened because I have no memory of it. But she said, if I do that, then I'm like taking away the credibility of all these other people because it's saying, well, they said I did something to Aubrey and then Aubrey's saying it didn't happen. So if Aubrey says that these people are lying, then all these other women could be lying. She was like, I don't want to take credibility away from other women who are telling their stories. But she was like, also, like, I don't remember this. And she was like, just the back and forth of like trying to figure out, understand, accept that I was raped. Like she was like, this whole Diddy thing. She was like, it's been years. It's been decades since I've been away from him. And yet I still can't get away from this shit. Aubrey also notes that at the time that Diddy fired her, Diddy was also focused on, he'd also been in the studio and he was working on Dirty Money. And he put himself into the group because he always likes to be like the main focus. Kalena is part of this documentary. It's her and Don and Diddy that were in Dirty Money. She's an interesting lady. If you remember, I talked about this at the beginning of the episode. We talked about like the major lawsuits. And I mentioned, I think that Dawn Richard was one of them, was one of those lawsuits. Kalena tells the story of Diddy calling her, wanting her to speak up about Dawn's lawsuit. Oh, throughout the documentary, there's this footage, this never seen before footage that the producers were able to gather of the days leading up to Diddy's arrest. He had gone to New York to turn himself in, and he was staying, I think, at the Park Hyatt in Midtown. And it wasn't even like a big suite. It wasn't like the penthouse suite or the presidential suite. Like it was a regular, like, one bedroom suite. And I was like, you have like money. But I guess like he's paying all those lawyers and he's got all these lawsuits coming down the pipeline. He's being conservative with his ends and dividends. I suppose that's the right thing to do. But Diddy had videographers filming him. Apparently he had people filming him all the time. But even during this very fraught time in his life where he's about to be locked up, maybe he didn't know he was going to have to stay in jail. But he films himself like having conversations like with his lawyers about legal strategy, like shit that never should have been on film. Even like physically, the lawyer is in the room and it's not even the lawyer that has to that tells somebody, hey, turn these cameras off. We shouldn't be discussing legal strategy on camera. Like this is bad. Apparently, Diddy didn't pay these videographers. And so they sold the footage to 50, and he put it in the documentary. So in this footage is him flipping out multiple times in a way that he doesn't for most other things about Dawn suing him. He was like, brokenness makes people do crazy things, but he's really seemingly very hurt by Dawn suing him. He calls Kalena, the other person in Dirty Money, and it's like, hey, he says, I wouldn't ask most people this, but like, we have a sister-brother situation. We had vibes. We were super close. So like, I need you to speak up and defend me on this Dawn shit. She says, I have to think about it. I have to talk to my husband. She also tells this story. She says that she was going through a custody battle over her kids with her previous partner. And she said she called Diddy once and she said, hey, like, I need to get a better lawyer because I'm about to lose my kids. Like, I'm in a really tight spot. That's the only reason I would be calling. And again, when he comes to Kalena and it's like, could you speak up for me? He plays this like, oh, you like, I'm your brother. You're my sister. I love you so much. And you love me. Like, the feeling is mutual. Like, he really plays into this whole family bond thing that they had. When she called him for $5,000, which is less than what he spent on an escort for his freak offs, he told her no. He wouldn't give her $5,000 for a lawyer. His sister, who he loves so much, his sister, he wouldn't give her $5,000 for her lawyer fees. But then he turns around and asks her to step out, to use her good name to defend him against Dawn's lawsuit. And she did it. I was like, the man has already shown you he don't give two shits about you, and you gonna throw Dawn under the bus in order to defend someone who wouldn't give you money to help you get your kids back. I don't know exactly what I expected this documentary to be. I thought this would be a documentary primarily about, because it's 50 and 50's petty. And he said when he was a young artist coming out, he said Diddy tried to take him shopping and he was very offended by that. So he doesn't tell the full story on Robin Roberts. He keeps it very cute. But I've heard him tell this story before. And he was like, hey, like he tried to treat me like a bitch. Like men treat women is what he meant. And he's like, when a man meets a woman and he's trying to like impress her, he's trying to fuck her essentially. He was like, he pours it on real strong. Like you wine and dine you, like, let me take you here, let me take you there, let me show you some shit you never seen. Like, let me take you shopping. And 50 was like, he came at me, treating me like he was trying to fuck me, like I was like a groupie or some shit. And 50 Cent has been personally offended by this for like decades. I expected this documentary to be a shit show of Diddy's worst hits. I didn't expect it to be done well. He's personally petty and sloppy, but he does have a professional habit of putting out good work. I will give him that. I thought the documentary would be more of a petty drag. It's actually incredibly well done. It's well thought out. It's well sourced. This never seen before footage that he got from the videographers right before Diddy gets arrested is amazing. Just sort of like you're inside the hotel room with Diddy as he's like strategizing. You can also see outside Diddy's window, and there are across the street from the Park Hyatt, they've put police officers on the roof to monitor Diddy's room. But you really get a sense of like a caged man enjoying his last days of freedom. They talk about Cassie. They don't get to Cassie until, I would say, like towards the end of episode 3 of the documentary. And it's a 4-part documentary. The video of Cassie, when she first starts coming around Bad Boy, like she's still with Ryan Leslie, she's a baby. Like Diddy is in his mid-30s by that point. Like he looks like a grown-ass man, like a seasoned man. Cassie looks like a high school student. She's 18 or 19 years old. She's super skinny. She's not been exposed to much. She's from Connecticut. She hasn't seen the world. She doesn't look like some hot girl who be running the streets. Like she looks like a baby. Because she is. She's 18, 19. It was really heartbreaking to see those photos of her. But they note here that she was Ryan Leslie's girlfriend when she started coming around. And they note throughout the documentary that Diddy has a bad habit of trying to poach the women of men that he admires, respects in a sense. So like Kim Porter was Al B. Sure's girlfriend when Al B. Sure is like, up there at the height of his fame. They have a child together. They say Kim Porter was the receptionist at Uptown. Al B. Sure is signed to Uptown. I think they say in the documentary he was like the first platinum artist on the label. So he's a big deal. Everyone knows he and Kim are dating. And then they also see Diddy pushing up on Kim and are like, what the fuck? But nobody really calls him on it. Same thing with Misa Hilton. He thinks Misa is with Eric Sermon, EPMD. And he was like, Misa was the homie, But he thought Misa and Eric had something going on. And then he specifically wanted Misa because he thought she was with Eric. And then once he got with Misa, he banned her from dealing with Eric Sturman, even though they were just friends. And Eric says it over and over. He was like, we did not date. That was my homie. That was my sis. We did not date. But he thought they did. So he tried to get in the way of it, or he did get in the way with it. Same thing with Ryan Leslie. Ryan Leslie is the one that brings Cassie in because he started working his production for Diddy. Diddy wants Cassie and then eventually moves Ryan Leslie out of the picture. They interview Clayton Howard. I believe from the things that he talked about in the documentary that he's one of the sex workers who testified during the trial, or he has a very similar story to another one. He says he got into sex work because, quote, I had a friend who thought I would make a really good gigolo. And I was like, is that what your friends suggest to you? Like, my friends say things like, I think you should talk about this on the podcast, or I think you should, host trips to XYZ country. I think you should, I don't know, write another book. Not like, I think you would make like a really good prostitute. You should explore that. This guy listened to his friend. He becomes a sex worker, honest work. And this guy ends up being the preferred escort of Cassie and Diddy for around 8 years. This didn't come up during the trial, at least not the notes that I saw. As a rule, they would have like music playing when they were having sex. He said there could be no Tupac music. He said Tupac music came on one time and he said Diddy was like, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. He said his average freak off with Diddy and Cassie, he said they go 4 or 5 rounds over 18 to 20 hours. He would get paid around $6,000 for every encounter. And these encounters would happen every 2 to 3 weeks over 8 years. He also includes this little tidbit. He says Cassie and Diddy would collect his semen. You heard that right. And he said one day he just asked, like, exactly what are y'all doing, like, with my cum? Like, it's just been on my mind for years. And so I figured I'd just ask since we've been at this for a while. We all cool. He refers to them being in a relationship. And I was like, is that what you thought that was? Okay. And Diddy explained, he said that he likes for Cassie to play with it and drink it. I think Cassie said that Diddy liked for her to take another man's semen, because obviously it couldn't be her own, but to take semen, another man's semen, not Diddy's own semen, and then like rub it on Diddy's nipples because that made him like Randy. I'm going to just move on. I don't even know what to do with that. The sex worker also said, particularly, he said Cassie would always call him on the anniversary of Biggie's death to have a freak off and do their freaky things.
All right, y'all, gather round because Monet Exchange from Sibling Rivalry is here with an announcement. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Google Gemini. Now listen, the girls over at Google said, Monet, tell the children, so I'm telling you. U.S. college students get Google Gemini's Pro Plan free for 1 year. Use the best model in the world for multimodal understanding, so whether you're uploading a video to get feedback on your presentation, uploading a photo of your homework to ask for help, or transcribing notes from a lecture you missed, Gemini 3 Pro can help. And baby, if I had this in college, she would have been unstoppable. Picture it. Monet Exchange in the library, uploading a picture of my music theory homework like, Gemini, please help a diva out. Or recording my rehearsal videos for feedback instead of crying in the practice room for 3 hours. This would have been life-changing. Now, back to the goods. Sign up to get more access to Google's most accurate model, Gemini 3 Pro. Unlimited image uploads, pro-level image editing, higher limits in Notebook LM, Gemini in Gmail and Docs, 2 terabytes of storage, and more. You heard me, 2 terabytes. That's enough space to store every vocal warm-up, drag race look, and every photo your aunt sends you of her plants. Visit gemini.google/students to learn more and sign up. Terms apply.
What do you want? Not family, not friends, not society at large, you. What do you want and how do you want it? Without the noise of external opinions, you may have the space to find out. On the dating app field, curiosity leads the way towards intimacy with others and yourself. Desires, interests, the space to change again and again. There's room for all of it here. If you have a fantasy, say it. If you have a desire, include it in your bio. You just may get what you want. If life on field interests you, here's a closer look at exactly what happens there. Now, I love field because it doesn't gatekeep connection. In an age where dating apps create hurdles to finding your people, field is built differently. They don't guide your desire. You will be neither punished or rewarded for exploring your desires, unless that's your thing. In a place where there's no pressure to be anything, who will you be? My favorite part, there's no fast swipe culture. Sometimes attraction takes time. Here, you don't have to make a split decision in order to see another person. Skip profiles, go back, and take the time you need to decide if you really like someone. Are you ready to give Field a try? That's FEELD. Download Field on the App Store or Google Play. What do you want? Not family, not friends, not society at large, you. What do you want and how do you want it? Without the noise of external opinions, you may have the space to find out. On the dating app field, curiosity leads the way towards intimacy with others and yourself. Desires, interests, the space to change again and again. There's room for all of it here. If you have a fantasy, say it. If you have a desire, include it in your bio. You just may get what you want. If life on field interests you, here's a closer look at exactly what happens there. Now, I love field because it doesn't gatekeep connection. In an age where dating apps create hurdles to finding your people, field is built differently. They don't guide your desire. You will be neither punished or rewarded for exploring your desires, unless that's your thing. In a place where there's no pressure to be anything, who will you be? My favorite part, there's no fast swipe culture. Sometimes attraction takes time. Here, you don't have to make a split decision in order to see another person. Skip profiles, go back, and take the time you need to decide if you really like someone. Are you ready to give Field a try? That's FEELD. Download Field on the App Store or Google Play. I have a note here about Capricorn Clark. She also testified at the trial. A lot of the documentary, I meant to say this up front, a lot of the documentary is almost like bringing the trial to video, kind of. The trial was federal. They don't allow cameras in the courthouse, but several people who testified during the trial, like the sex worker, like Capricorn Clark, are telling their stories. Instead of just reading what they say, you get to like see it and have, I guess, better context for it. Capricorn talks about like the first time she worked with Diddy. She told the story at trial. She's like, the day was fine enough. She said, at the end of the day, he and his bodyguard take me to Central Park and he tells me that he didn't know I had a relationship with Suge Knight. And she said, well, I know his child's mother. Like, that's how I know Suge, but I'm not here like for anything that has to do with that. And so Diddy was like, well, okay. He's like, but should I find out that you're here for, any other purpose than actually being my assistant? Like if you're running back shit to Suge or whatever, I will kill you. And he was like, I will take you to the park in the middle of the night. And he was like, and you will disappear and no one will know where the body is and blah, 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 blah. She continues to work for him after this. And again, like I've made bad decisions. There have been times where people have told me up front, basically, I ain't shit. And I'd be like, no, you can't be that bad. And then they were worse than what I expected. It's just very painful to like, from what we know, especially like the stories that Capricorn has told about Diddy, that he basically told her up front, like, I ain't shit. And then she was just like, okay. Like, she's like, well, my mom was, a drug, again, not a drug addict. My mom used heavy cocaine. She was like, I was used to dealing with, like highly dysfunctional people and like navigating them. So like dealing with Diddy didn't seem that crazy to me because I was used to crazy. Here's another interesting tidbit, and I'm skipping ahead in the documentary. They do have two of the jurors in the documentary, and Capricorn tells this story about the day Diddy found out that Cassie was dating Kid Cudi. And in the documentary and on the stand, she says Diddy came to her house and he kidnapped her and made her go with him to Cudi's house. And he said he was going to kill Cudi. She doesn't say it in the documentary, but she does say it in her testimony at the trial that he had guns in the car and she really believed that he was going to like go and shoot Cudi. She ends up calling Cassie to like warn her, like, where's Cudi? Because Diddy found out about y'all. He's going crazy. We're at Cudi's house. She's like, Cudi's here with me. Diddy comes out the house, realizes that she's talking to Cassie and tells Capricorn that she can't leave him. until she makes Cassie come to him, which Cassie agrees to do. And then he doesn't beat Cassie, he throws her on the floor, and then he kicks her over and over and over and over again. Like a Capricorn describes it as like a 70s pimp. The two jurors both said they didn't believe Capricorn's story. And she's saying she was kidnapped. She's like super emotional. And it's been like over 10 years since like all of this allegedly happened. And she was just so emotional. And it just like, we just didn't find her credible or believable. And I was like, what? One of the jurors interview was a man, middle aged, seemed to be, could be India from India, Indian, could be Guyanese, wasn't quite sure on that accent. And they asked him about like Diddy and Cassie. He didn't think there was any coercion or force in their relationship. He described it as clapping. In order for there to be clapping, there must be two participants. So he was like, Diddy and Cassie, like, yes, it was dysfunctional, but they were both participating in it. That's like the metaphor he gave. And I was like, nigga, what? So what Diddy was offering as the relationship was, there was going to be luxury and there was going to be like this amazing lifestyle, but there was also going to be violence. These are the terms of this relationship that I am offering. And he said Cassie was clear on that and still signed up for it. Like she knew there was luxury and she knew there was violence, and like she would leave but she would come back. She would leave and she would come back. But because she would leave and then she would come back, he was like, it was clapping. Like she wanted to be there. She wanted to stay there, obviously, because she kept being there. And I was like, so the whole concept of like the cycle of domestic violence or like grooming, or him being a 30-something-year-old man and her being like literally a teenager when they met, like none of that like plays a factor. And for him, no. And then the other juror, and she was like, like, yes, it was terrible. Like the domestic violence was terrible. But the fact of the matter is he wasn't on trial for domestic violence. Same juror. I think Kirk talks about Diddy's ability to manipulate and influence and charm people into getting his way. The juror is talking about how this is the Black woman. And she was like, yeah, like I grew up on bad boy music, but I was like into the music. I wasn't particularly into Diddy. And she's talking about how Diddy had no effect on her. Diddy's fame, his superstar, his charm, his celebrity had no effect on her as a juror. And then she goes on to describe some of the things that were on the trial that people said they were crazy. He and I would have like the same reaction. We'd make the same face. I could tell like, I was thinking what he was thinking. He was thinking what I was thinking about some of the things that we heard during the trial. He would nod with something that he agreed with. And I would be like, yeah, I agree with that too. But she swears up and down that like Diddy had no effect on her, while actively sitting there describing how Diddy had an effect on her, that like she acknowledged that she was, they were in sync in their thinking. Lil Rod, he's the producer that sued Puffy. I mentioned him earlier. He was the one that said like he had thousands of hours of footage and photos being with Puffy. He worked with him for 2 years on, was it the Love album? I think he was the producer for. Never got a dime. He said Diddy told him he was going to give him $250,000. He said Little Rod, he was going to have him nominated for like best producer, maybe like for a Grammy or something. He was going to end up with the house next to Diddy's on Star Island, all sorts of shit. As of the taping of the documentary, he had not received any money. He said originally it was supposed to be $250,000. He said Diddy and his team ended up offering him $29,000. And he said that's after me producing a whole album that was Grammy nominated, working with him for 2 years, missing, Thanksgiving, Christmases, holidays, birthdays with my family, kids even, and nothing. He said, so people be like, oh, Puffy does this for the culture. Puffy is a king. They're just trying to like tear a Black man down. And he said, no, he was like, what did Puffy actually do for you? Not just like for the culture, not just like the look, the impact or whatever. What has Puffy actually done for you? And he answers his own question. He says, nothing. He's a monster. He said one day while he was working for Puff, he was in the studio and he saw Justin, Puff, and a man named G go into, I think it was a bathroom, and he heard gunshots. He heard 2 gunshots. And he was like, when I first heard it, he's like, I'm from the hood. Like, I know what gunshots sound like. But he was like, I'm not in the hood. That couldn't have been gunshots. He was like, did I hit a wrong button in the studio? Like, hit something and made a gunshot noise? Like, what is going on? And he says he goes to the bathroom and he says there's blood everywhere and there's a man on the floor bleeding. And so he was like, I've seen people shot before. Like, I'm grabbing towels. I'm trying to put pressure on the wound. I'm calling for people to like, call an ambulance. He was like, people are just taking their like sweet and slow time about it. I think they said they moved the body outside of the studio. And then the official report that gets written up is like, man is injured outside of studio. So, like, totally separating it from anything going on with Diddy. He said Diddy and Justin are just like unbothered. Like, nothing happened at all. Like, just like they had nothing to do with it. And he was like, they 110% were in the bathroom when a man got shot. One of them shot him. This story does actually sound insane, admittedly. What do you mean, like, a man got shot in a studio and there's blood everywhere and y'all just moved the body and then people just sort of accepted it as fact that this man was outside? Like, you can tell when a body has been moved. And then also, like, he was like, there's no record of the man telling his story at the hospital. This sounds completely insane, except there's video. So something happened. And he was like, yeah, but the man who it happened to has completely disappeared and never told the story. Rod said he was one of like a bunch of producers working on a song that Bieber was doing, and Diddy wanted it to sound like Michael Jackson's. He got the song the way Diddy wanted it, and so Diddy hired him to like come to Miami and work on produce the rest of the album. And he has 13 months of footage, and he turned it over to 50 for the purposes of this documentary. And they show several clips of Diddy where he is completely high out his fucking mind. He's rambling incoherently, just like a bunch of dumb shit. Like, he sounds like Trump trying to talk about anything these days. Like, he sounds completely out of it. Rod has a bunch of voice notes that Diddy sent to him. He doesn't even sound like himself. Rod said that Diddy had begun to sexually harass him while he was working with him. He said Diddy showed him videos, and he put it in the most interesting way that I had to write down. He said Diddy showed him videos of Diddy himself, quote, penetrating a Caucasian man from the rear end. Oh. He said Diddy would send Rob to the strip club, and he told him to put on a bad boy hat and then recruit women to come back to the house so Diddy and Justin could fuck them. Rod was like, this has nothing to do with music. And Diddy was like, hey, like, I need to create like my environment to be creative so that I can, finish this album and create music. And Rod was like, look, I'm this far into the project. I just want to get it done. Also, as a side, because you would think that like, hey, you were sitting in the studio where Diddy and his son took somebody in the bathroom, shot him, made you move the body, and then acted like nothing was wrong. Why did you continue to stay on and finish this? And he was like, I was working on the album and I felt like this was one of those jobs that could really change my life and I could provide for my family and even my grandchildren if this, because I'm the producer. The producers always make money if they're paid properly. So he thought it would be like, a great professional and economic come up for him. So he was like, I'm just going to bury my head and continue on. That didn't work out well for him or anyone else who tries this shit. He said sometimes he would wake up in the bed. He said sometimes there were women next to him and he didn't remember going to bed with any women. He realized that he was being drugged. He said sometimes he would wake up in the bed and Diddy would be next to him. And he said his body would be sore and he had no idea what he did. He didn't say which body part, but I kind of inferred that it was, I won't even guess. He didn't say, I'm just going to let that linger. He said he didn't know what happened to him, what he did or what was done to him. But he stayed and kept working because he wanted to get paid. He said, did he finish the album? And he said he got no check. He said the album drops. He says there's no check. The album gets nominated and he says there's no check. Diddy started doing this thing. He was calling him. They played many of the voicemail messages in the documentary, but Diddy would call him promising to pay him. And he'd just be like, I got you. Like, I'm not in a good space right now. I got other things going on, but I'm going to take care of you. And like, let's not let money come between us. And like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. But he never got it. And so part of that is what leads Little Rod to file his lawsuit. I think he said Cassie filed. And then he was like, oh, he's out here treating everybody fucking crazy. And then he filed his lawsuit after that. And his lawsuit includes allegations that Diddy drugged, sexually harassed, and threatened him. See, scrolling down through my notes, we're almost done. Kirk talks about the betrayal of Diddy, and he says how he was erased from the bad boy narrative. He said he was homeless for a while. He was living in a shelter after he parted ways from Bad Boy. He said he was blacklisted, so he couldn't get a job at any of the other record companies, despite all he had done, all the money he had made for Bad Boy. And I was like, I feel bad for you. I do. Full stop. And also, how did you not see that coming, bruh? He treated everybody else like shit, but was going to do right by you? That's not how people operate. Shitty people are shitty. All right, that is today's episode. We'll be back next week. I'm going to edit. We'll talk soon enough. Bye. What do you want? Not family, not friends, not society at large, you. What do you want and how do you want it? Without the noise of external opinions, you may have the space to find out. On the dating app field, curiosity leads the way towards intimacy with others and yourself. If life on field interests you, here's a closer look at exactly what happens there. Now, I love field because it doesn't gatekeep connection. In an age where dating apps create hurdles to finding your people, field is built differently. My favorite part, there's no fast swipe culture. Sometimes attraction takes time. Here, you don't have to make a split decision in order to see another person. Skip profiles, go back, and take the time you need to decide if you really like someone. Are you ready to give Field a try? That's FEELD. Download Field on the App Store or Google Play.